She was off limits to all, till the human who loved her chose patience over passion. Asterisk, the warning came too late. The human ship. Solstice Dawn shuddered as red alerts flashed across every screen. A loud voice echoed through the bridge, unidentified. Craft, turn back. This territory is forbidden. You have entered the space of the Thal'Ryn. Leave immediately or be destroyed. The captain's knuckles whitened around the console. Engines are failing. You don't have a choice. A crackling silence followed before another warning boomed through space. You have been warned. Outside. The ship, 3 glowing alien satellites floated into position. Weapons powered up. Inside, Eli Hart, a young engineer, rushed through the corridor. Sparks flew from the walls. The ship had been hit by a solar flare hours earlier, and now they were limping through unknown territory. This planet was never meant to be visited, only feared a name marked in deep red on every map. Thal'Ryn Prime. Eli's hands were stained with grease and blood. He'd been working non-stop for 12 hours trying to stabilize the life support systems. Now, as the ship began to descend through the thick alien atmosphere, he felt a strange pull. Not fear, something colder. Like being watched. Through the window, he saw the surface of the planet approaching. Massive silver towers stabbed through green fog like the spines of a beast. The land was silent. No ships, no movement. Perfect order. Too perfect. When they landed, no welcome came. The crew gathered at the ramp, weapons drawn. The Thal'Ryn had a reputation, merciless, powerful, and emotionless. Their society was built on pure logic. Feelings were forbidden, especially love, especially for outsiders. The ramp lowered with a hiss. No sound, just thick. Green mist rolling in. Then she stepped through it. Princess Kaelara, tall, regal, eyes like glass, colorless yet deep. She wore armor that looked more like a ceremonial statue than clothing. Every movement was precise, every glance sharp. But Eli, standing at the back of the group, saw something no one else seemed to notice. Her hands were trembling. It lasted. Just a second. A flicker of weakness. A flicker of fear. The humans were escorted inside a towering citadel. Their weapons taken. The crew protested. But the captain knew better than to argue. Eli walked quietly, absorbing everything. The glowing walls, the silent guards, strange symbols carved into the floor. This place was alive, but not welcoming. They were told their ship would be repaired and they were to stay inside the visitor's zone. Stray beyond these limits, said a tall Thal'Ryn guard, and your stay will be brief. That night, Eli wandered to a viewing platform. The stars above were dull, smothered by the planet's thick atmosphere. He stared into the dark, his thoughts racing. He didn't trust this peace, and he couldn't forget the princess's eyes. Footsteps behind him. He turned. It was her. Kaelara stood a few feet away, her expression blank. She didn't speak. Didn't blink, just stared at him. Eli's heart pounded. He bowed slightly. I didn't mean to, she raised a hand, silencing him. They stood in silence for a full minute. Then she turned and walked away. He didn't sleep that night. The next day, the humans were given a tour of the upper levels. Kaelara led them, speaking little, only answering direct questions. Her tone was cold, controlled. But again, Eli watched closely. The way she paused along near the old paintings. The way her hand brushed a broken statue. She wasn't just leading them, she was remembering something. That evening, Eli sat alone in his assigned quarters. He opened a maintenance panel in the wall to adjust the oxygen flow. Inside, tucked between wires, was something he didn't expect. A small silver disc. He turned it over in his hand. No markings. When he pressed it gently, a holographic message appeared in the air. Kaelara's face. No crown. No armor. Just her. Wearing something plain, her hair undone. Her voice was soft, almost human. Help. At. The message vanished. Eli stared at the empty space where it had floated, his hands shaking. This wasn't a malfunction. It wasn't a mistake. She had reached out to him, but why? Eli didn't sleep that night. The word echoed in his head like thunder trapped in a sealed room. Help. Why would she say that? He replayed the hologram again and again, but it never changed. Just her face, tired, bare, not the cold royal mask he had seen during the day. And that one word, help. It couldn't be a trap. If it was, why risk it? Why hide it in the air system of his room? Morning came, too slowly. He hid the silver disc under a floor panel, his heart pounding with each step as he followed the others back to the main hall. He kept stealing glances toward the far balcony, the place where he'd first seen Kaelara alone. She wasn't there. The Thal'Ryn guards watched the humans like hawks, never blinking. They moved in silence, like machines. Their weapons were elegant, deadly, and always close. At noon, Kaelara entered again. This time she wore different armor, darker, heavier, almost like a warning. She didn't even look at them, except once. Her eyes passed over the group like usual, and for a moment, paused on Eli. Just a heartbeat. Then she turned away. Eli's stomach twisted. That single glance was enough. She knew he'd seen the message. She was waiting for something. That evening, he waited until lights dimmed across the palace. The Thal'Ryn had no nights, just cycles of cold light and blue dusk. He studied the guard patterns from his window, counted their footsteps. When the timing was right, he slipped into the corridor, keeping low. He had no plan, just a feeling. The halls of the palace were vast, empty, filled with walls that whispered. Light hummed through glass veins on the floor. He followed the route Kaelara had taken the day before, remembering her turns, her pauses. He found a door. It looked like all the others, seamless, metallic, silent, but this one opened without a sound. Inside, the chamber was unlike anything else he had seen. The walls were covered in old books, glass maps, and floating crystal memories. The room was warm, not cold like the rest of the palace. A small lamp glowed on a curved desk. In the corner stood Kaelara. She didn't look surprised. "You came," she said, without turning. Eli didn't speak right away. His throat was dry. "You asked for help." She nodded slowly. "I shouldn't have. It was foolish." "Why me?" he asked. Silence. "I watched you," she said finally. "You, feel things. Even when it's dangerous. Even when it makes you weak, and you don't hide it." Eli didn't know what to say. Kaelara turned, and this time her eyes weren't empty. They were heavy, tired. "Our people were not always like this," she said. "Centuries ago, we had emotions, families, love, but feelings led to war. And after the last great collapse, the rulers banned them, locked them away, trained us to forget." "That's horrible," Eli said quietly. She looked at him. "It is survival. Emotion was weakness. Now it is death. Even speaking to you this way, if I'm discovered, I will be erased." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because something is changing in me. Ever since your ship landed, I don't know what it is, but I see things now that I've never allowed myself to see, and it terrifies me." Eli stepped closer. "Maybe it's not weakness. Maybe it's a part of you trying to survive." Kaelara stared at him like she was trying to understand a foreign language. "There is something beneath the palace," she said. "A vault. Old technology. Forbidden memory. Deity. But I believe the truth is there." "Then let's go there," Eli said. "No," she shook her head. "If I try alone, I will be caught. If you try, you will be killed. Then what do you want me to do?" She paused. Wait. Yes, watch, listen, and be ready. When the time comes, I will need someone who doesn't follow the rules. Someone who still knows what a heart is for." Eli swallowed. "You're risking everything." "So are you," she said. Then she walked past him, and the door slid open silently before leaving. She looked over her shoulder, just once. "Don't come back here again," she whispered. "They're watching." The door closed behind her. Eli stood alone in the warm chamber. The crystals around him flickered with images of laughter, of faces smiling, of children playing. Things no longer allowed on this planet. He looked down at the floor and realized something deep in his chest. This wasn't just about politics or power. It was about a girl who had never been allowed to feel, and a human who had always felt too much. But something in both of them was waking up now. Outside, alarms began to sound in the distant halls. Something had been discovered, but no one knew what yet. Not yet, asterisk. Alarms echoed through the silver halls, like a warning from the bones of the palace itself. Eli froze in the hallway, his heart pounding. Louder than the sirens, his breath came in shallow gasps as he pressed his back against the cold wall. The sound wasn't near, not yet, but it was growing, sharp and rhythmic, like boots marching. He hadn't been caught. Not yet. But someone had triggered something. He crept back to his quarters through a maintenance shaft, slipping past glowing vents and silent scanners. When he finally crawled out behind his bed panel, his hands were shaking. Minutes later, a loud knock came at his door. "Inspection," a deep voice barked. Eli opened the door slowly, trying to look confused and sleepy. 3 Thal'Ryn guards stood there, their faces hidden behind dark glass helmets. One stepped forward and scanned the room. Another opened floor panels. The third checked his datapad. "You are not to leave your chamber after blue cycle," the guard said without emotion. "I didn't," Eli replied, his voice calm. "What's going on?" "There was a breach. Unauthorized movement. Stay in your chamber." The guards left without waiting for a response. As the door closed, Eli sat down hard on the floor. Something had changed. The next day was quieter, but not safer. The humans were told to remain indoors. No explanations, no updates, no Kaelara. Eli stared out the narrow window, watching the mist swirl over the alien garden below. He thought about what Kaelara had said. Emotions were once allowed. Here now, they are death. He didn't understand how a whole society could erase such a basic part of being alive. But then he looked at the guards, the council members, even the servants. Their faces were blank. Their eyes were mirrors. Their words were mechanical. And maybe worst of all, he believed it was the right way. Later that evening, a small screen in his room flickered to life. A message had arrived, text only, "Do not respond. Now meet me where the air hums." 1 cycle from now. That was all. He didn't know what it meant until he remembered the chamber, the crystals, the soft humming of the machines around them. Kaelara wanted to meet again. He couldn't say no. He left just before the palace dimmed for blue cycle. He took a different path this time, crawling through a disused maintenance tunnel that bent like a steel spine beneath the walls. When he reached the hidden chamber, the door opened for him as if expecting him. Kaelara stood at the center of the room, surrounded by the glowing crystal archives. She didn't look royal tonight. She looked human. No armor, no crown. Just a soft gray cloak and bare hands. Her long hair was braided simply. Her eyes, still sharp, carried something else now. "A question. You came," she said softly. Eli nodded. "I had to." She looked down. "The alarm yesterday. It was for me." He took a step forward. "Did they find out?" "They know someone accessed restricted archives," she said. "But they don't know who. Yet." She touched a floating memory crystal, and it glowed with a warm orange light. An image appeared. A group of Thal'Ryn children, laughing, dancing in a sunlit garden. "This was before the reconditioning," she whispered. "Before they made us forget." Eli watched in silence. The children looked so alive, so normal, but now such a thing was illegal. Kaelara turned toward him. "Do you know what the punishment is for emotional corruption?" He shook his head. "Memory, cleansing, identity reset. They erase who you are, place it with silence. That's inhuman. Eli said. No, Kaelara replied. It is Thal'Ryn. It is law, and I am the daughter of that law. She sat down beside the desk, as if her strength had finally given out. I thought I could live like them. Be cold, be pure, be worthy. But the more I try, the more I feel broken. Eli sat across from her. You're not broken, you're waking up. They looked at each other in silence. Then she said something he didn't expect. I dreamed. Of you, Eli blinked. What? Kaelara stood, pacing slowly. We don't dream. They trained us not to, but I did. I saw you standing in the heart vault. You were holding something, a flame. And everything around you was burning, not with fire, but with feeling. Eli was quiet. Maybe it means something. She turned sharply. Or maybe it means I'm already lost. He stood too. I don't believe that. I've seen who you are when no one's looking. I don't think it's weakness. I think it's strength. Her hands curled into fists. You don't understand. They're watching me now. My father suspects something. The council is debating emotion protocol reinforcement. If it passes, anyone showing empathy even, to you can be executed. Eli felt cold. Then we need to leave. Escape. Kaelara shook her head. No. If we run, nothing changes. But if we expose the truth, everything does. How? The heart vault, she whispered. It holds the forbidden memories. Proof that we weren't always like this. That feelings were once sacred. If we can get inside and show the people, they may listen. But it's locked, Eli said. You said only certain codes can access it. Kaelara looked at him and slowly raised her hand. In her palm was a small glass vial. Inside it was a single, shimmering drop of silver, a tear, she said. The first I've shed in my life, and it is the key. Eli stared at it, stunned, but before he could speak, the lights in the chamber turned red. A robotic voice filled the air. Unauthorized presence detected. Tracking active. Close all exits. Kaelara's face paled. They've found us. She shoved the vial into Eli's hand. Take it. Hide it. If they catch me, the door slammed open with a metallic scream. Kaelara didn't move. 3 guards stormed in. Weapons raised, Eli backed away into the shadows. Kaelara raised her hands, cold again, her voice flat. I was here alone, studying history. That is not forbidden. The guards scanned the room. One looked toward the back where Eli had just disappeared through the maintenance tunnel. But the other shook his head. Room scan shows one life form. Continue monitoring. The door closed again. The red lights faded. Eli ran through the shafts, breath tight in his chest. The vial clutched to his chest. Behind him, Kaelara stood in silence, her expression blank once more, but her heart. That was no longer silent. Not anymore. Eli didn't stop running until he was sure no one was following him. The glass vial in his hand pulsed with faint light, like a heartbeat. Inside, Kaelara's tears shimmered silver, alive, impossible. It wasn't just a drop of emotion. It was something more. A key, she'd said. Memory. A truth that had been buried. He returned to his chamber through the side vent and carefully sealed the vial inside a small power cell. If scanned, it would appear as a piece of harmless equipment. Then he sat on the floor, back against the wall, breathing heavily. Outside his door, he could hear the guards moving, quiet, precise. They always knew more than they let on. Kaelara had sacrificed something ancient, something sacred by giving him that tear. It's the first in her entire life. Not because her body couldn't produce it, but because she had been trained not to, conditioned, monitored, corrected. But now, something was breaking through, and it was changing both of them. The next day, a new message appeared in Eli's room. This time it wasn't from Kaelara. You met Eli Hart. You are required for a systems diagnostic briefing. Council Hall, 9.74. Cycle, he didn't trust it, but he also didn't have a choice. The guards came before he could prepare anything. They didn't speak, just marched him through silent, twisting corridors. This time, he was taken deeper beneath the citadel, where the air grew colder and the walls darker. Then, the doors opened. The council chamber was massive, shaped like a circle with 7 tall thrones carved from black stone. Each held a figure wearing robes of ancient design, faces hidden by crystal masks. They didn't move, didn't breathe, or like statues. In the center of the chamber, Kaelara stood. Not as a princess, but as a prisoner. Her wrists were bound with light binders. Her face was bruised. Her crown was gone. Eli felt rage rise in his chest, but he said nothing. One wrong word, and they'd erase him from existence. "She has spoken to you," said one of the counselors. The voice was male, but warped through. "Technology, she has given you something." "Tell us what?" Eli kept his eyes forward. "I don't know what you mean." "She has violated core law," said another voice. "Emotion, attachment, memory, corruption, and now, treason." Thal'Ryn looked up slowly. Her eyes met Eli's. They were empty, hollow, but he saw it, the faintest twitch at the corner of her mouth. She wasn't defeated. She was acting. The council demanded answers, but Eli gave them none. He played the role of the clueless human, confused, innocent. It worked for now. They released him, but warned him that any further involvement would be punished. Back in his room, Eli collapsed onto his bed, the vial still hidden beneath the floor. That night, he finally dared to open it. He poured the tear into his portable scanner. The interface blinked, and something strange happened. The scanner powered down, lights flickered, and then a projection appeared, a memory not his. Hers, he saw Kaelara as a child, no more than 6, standing in a golden field, smiling. Truly smiling. A man held her hand. Not in armor, not cold, but warm and laughing. Her father, a younger version, perhaps, before he became ruler. But then the memory shifted. Guards' screams, the child being pulled away, machines, shadows, and the smile. A race the memory ended. Eli sat still for a long time. That tear held more than emotion. It held truth. It was a map, a hidden link to the place where it had all started. The Heart Vault. It wasn't just a story. It was a weapon. He began to study the scan patterns hidden in the tear. Embedded in the light refraction were codes, coordinates, a path through the Undercity. A secret tunnel that led to the Heart Vault, the place Kaelara had only dreamed of reaching. He needed to get back to her, but how? The next day, the humans were allowed outside the Citadel, a gesture of goodwill, the council claimed. Eli knew better. It was a test, or a trap, but he used it. While the others explored the garden, slipped through the edge of the marble walls and found the mouth of the tunnel hidden beneath a dead fountain. The entrance was old, rusted shut, but he pried it open, tearing skin from his hands. Inside, darkness swallowed him whole. She transmitted the hidden memories, the ones Eli had unlocked. All of them. Broadcast them into the city through old maintenance lines, forgotten home panels, broken info screens, one by one, across the dark towers of the Thal'Ryn. Images appeared, a father hugging his child, a girl weeping over a broken necklace, 2 lovers kissing in the rain, and finally, Eli, standing in the vault, eyes glowing with stolen history. The people froze. No one moved. The silence that had lasted centuries. Cracked, not with a shout, but with a single tear. Some wept. Others screamed. Few fell to their knees, and across the towers, red alarms lit up again. The council had seen the breach. Kaelara turned from the relay, heart racing. They were coming, but she was ready. Inside his cell, Eli heard the explosion. Before the door opened, a figure stepped through the smoke. Not Kaelara, a woman in white armor. A rebel, she smiled. The princess sends her regards. Eli blinked. How did you? We followed the light trail. The moment your cell flickered, we knew. You opened the vault. How many of you are there? Looked back and through the smoke, a dozen figures stepped forward. Some Thal'Ryn, some human, some half-bloods, all carrying old weapons and new hope. Enough, she said. enough to start something real. She handed him a communicator. Kaelara's waiting. The heart vault is opening again, this time for everyone. Eli stared down at the device. A plan was forming. 1 cycle ago, he was just an outsider waiting to die. Now he was the key to a new world. He stepped into the corridor past the broken locks and flickering lights. Behind him, the city was shaking. Ahead of him, the future. But first, he had to get to the vault and Kaelara before the council got to her first. The rebellion of the heart had begun. Asterisk, the vault doors groaned open, slow and ancient, as if the very planet had to wake up for what was coming. Kaelara stood alone before it, facing the great sphere of memory. Her armor was gone. She wore a simple gray robe, the color of dusk. No crown, no weapons, just her. Behind her, the citadel burned. Flames curled from its tallest spires. Smoke twisted through the alien sky. The people, Thal'Ryn and human, had gathered in. The streets below, silent, watching, waiting for something that had never happened in the history of their world. A royal choosing love. In public, in choosing it without shame, Kaelara closed her eyes, feeling the air shift as Eli approached behind her. His steps were quiet, careful, not out of fear, but out of reverence. When she turned to face him, they both paused. They had not spoken since the rebellion began, not truly. So much had changed in so little time, and yet the moments stretched between them like a thread pulled tight since the day they met. "I didn't think you'd make it," she said softly. He smiled. "I said I'd wait. That includes surviving. A death sentence." Her eyes shimmered, just slightly, but she didn't look away. "I broadcast everything," she said. "The truth, the memories, the lies. The council has lost control." "And you?" he asked. "Have you lost control too?" Kaelara looked up at the vault, its energy pulsing like a giant heart. "Yes," she said, "and for once, I don't want it back." Eli stepped forward. "You asked for help. I came. You gave me your trust. I held it. You were forbidden. I never crossed the line." She nodded. "I remember." "So now," he said, pulling the last crystal shard from his pocket, the one she once gave him, "I asked something in return." He placed it in her hand. "I ask you to feel. Not because I want it, but because you do." Kaelara looked down at the shard. It glowed brighter in her palm, as if recognizing its other half. "I don't know what to do with this," she whispered. "Yes, you do," he said. She stepped toward the vault. Her hands trembled. Then slowly, she placed the crystal in the final slot. A burst of light poured out. It's not harsh, but warm, gentle, golden. And then silence. A soft breeze rolled through the chamber. The vault shifted, then opened fully, revealing a staircase that descended deep below. At the bottom, a throne, not a seat of power, a place of memory. Kaelara turned to the crowd behind her. Her voice didn't rise, didn't need to. "My name is Kaelara of the Thal'Ryn," she said. "Daughter of stone, raised in silence, trained in control. But I remember now. I remember laughter. I remember music. I remember love." She held out her hand, not to her people, to Eli, the outsider. He walked forward, not proud, not claiming her, just present, equal. When he reached her, she didn't kiss him. She didn't cry. She simply took his hand in hers, and the people gasped, because that was all it took. In Thal'Ryn culture, a hand taken in public was not a romantic gesture. It was something far deeper, an eternal vow, a promise of shared fate. The vault glowed brighter behind them. From its depths, memories spilled into the minds of every citizen, not as video, not as data, but as feeling. Laughter returned to the city. Mothers embraced children. Fathers wept openly. Friends hugged without fear, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the Thal'Ryn were whole. The council was disbanded that night. The old laws were dissolved. The throne remained, but not as a seat of command. It became a sanctuary, a place where people could come to remember, to heal, to feel. Kaelara chose, not to rule, but to guide. She and Eli worked together, side by side, helping to rebuild a society that had once erased its soul. They walked without guards, spoke without scripts. They became a living symbol, not of rebellion, but of balance. Patience over passion, truth over fear, love over power. The legend of the human who waited, the princess who remembered how to feel, became a story told to children on both Earth and Thal'Ryn. A story that began with one word, help, and ended with a hand held by choice.